Happy New Year and welcome to another episode of the Coaster101 podcast. I'm Andrew Stillwell, and I'm joined this week by John Stevenson in Tennessee. John, how's it going?
Good. Happy New Year.
Same to you. We're joined by Nick again this week. Nick, how are you?
Pretty good.
And we are joined by Shane somewhere in New England, but probably Massachusetts. Shane, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about you guys?
I'm fantastic. It's finally 2020. We have managed to put it behind us. But last week we did talk about our highlights of 2020, but now we've officially gotten that year behind us. It's time to talk some of the roller coasters and other attractions that are opening in 2021. There were several coasters that were delayed in 2020 that have now become official 2021 coasters. But there have also been some new construction that was scheduled to open in 2021 anyway. But let's start with those 2020 coasters. Obviously, we've done enough talking about 2020 as a year. But the coasters that got delayed that are going to open later this year, what are those coasters you guys are most excited about? John, I'll go ahead and start with you.
Yeah, so I think one of the ones that I think we've all been waiting for so long is Iron Gwazi at Busch Gardens Tampa. And this has been, of course, this is the GCI dueling wooden coasters that opened in '99, which kind of had a bumpy ride, literally and figuratively, in its life. And I think the one side, I think it was the Tiger side, was closed in 2012, the end of 2012. And then by 2015, the Lion side had closed as well. And so it's kind of been just sitting there for a few years. And then you started to see some movement at the site. And so, long story short, Rocky Mountain Construction, or RMC as we frequently refer to it as, was brought on board, and they have just transformed. I mean, I don't know the percentage of how much of the former structure has been reused, but it's not a lot. You look at this thing and it is just a giant. Of course, it's a single track now, but it's 206 feet tall, top speed of 76 miles an hour, 2 inversions, vertical drop. I mean, it is just a 91-degree drop, to be specific. It is just a monster. And, this was one that was originally supposed to open in 2020. I was actually planning to go in March and hoping that in simpler times, the biggest thing I was worried about in March was whether or not it was going to be open when I went. Of course, 2020 had much greater things in store. But now it's scheduled to open in 2021, and I think it's just going to be a home run for both RMC and this park. Not too far from Iron Gwazi in Orlando, we've got Icebreaker at SeaWorld Orlando, and this is a little bit compared to Iron Gwazi, a little bit tamer of a coaster, but it's a more family style skyrocket coaster from Premier Rides. It's about 1,900 feet long, 93 feet tall, top speed of 52 miles per hour. It's I don't know about calling roller coasters cute, but it is smaller and it's just kind of adorable looking, pictures of it at least. And so was originally supposed to open in 2020 as well, but now is going to open in 2021. So it's got a multi-pass launch, which means it'll launch forward and backward. And so I think it's going to be a good addition for this park. I think it's going to be a great kind of step-up ride for people who are maybe looking for kids who are going from like Journey to Atlantis up to Kraken and some of the more intense coasters there. But now that we're on the subject of SeaWorld, we can just hop to the other coast to check out Emperor, which is the B&M dive coaster that is going to be opening in 2021. Nick, what are your thoughts on that?
I think this one could be a little bit of a surprise to some people, because although this is going to be, I think, the smallest B&M dive coaster in the United States, it only has 6 across seating, whereas a lot of the other ones like Valraven at Cedar Point has 8 across, and Griffin at Busch Gardens Williamsburg has 10 across seating. This Emperor at SeaWorld San Diego only has 6. And whereas the other dive coasters, I think, are all at least 200 feet tall, this one's only 153 feet. I think San Diego has a lot of height restrictions out there. I think it might surprise some people just because I think it's going to be a small, compact layout that it could be more intense than people are expecting. There's going to be 3 inversions within the 2,411 feet of track. So I think it's going to be a pretty like rapid fire inversions, one after the another, no dead spots in the track or anything like that. And the ride is actually fully built, and it has been testing. You can go onto YouTube and you can watch some videos of it testing. So it does look like it's going around the course pretty snappy there. So I think it could be a pretty fun one
for sure. And yeah, you mentioned those inversions, and I'm looking at the list here. It's got everything else in the dive coaster arsenal. It's definitely, it's going to pack a big punch in a small footprint, I feel like.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, and also, don't count out the height, because the one of the dive coasters I've been on is Baron 1898 in the Netherlands, which is, I think, only like 90 feet tall, but that's a really whippy and inversion filled ride. So dive coasters especially, they don't have to be the tallest and fastest to really pack a punch.
But Shane, I mean, you obviously, you talk about coasters that are smaller, but you're going to talk a little bit about one of the coasters that is actually a larger version of something we've already seen before, Jersey Devil at Six Flags Great
Adventure, in New Jersey. So Jersey Devil, appropriately named, is an RMC single rail coaster. So kind of like Wonder Woman and Railblazer. Those two are clones of each other, but this one's going to be different. This one's actually going to be 130 feet tall. It's going to go almost 60 miles an hour, which is impressive, especially when you consider that since it's a single rail coaster, there's one person per car on these trains. So you're really going to feel that. There's 3 inversions on this. There is a 0G stall, a 0G roll, and a dive loop, which are all awesome elements on other coasters. Some of them on the smaller versions as well, and almost a 90-degree drop. It's 87 degrees, which is the clones have a 90-degree drop. So RMC is definitely looking to expand this single rail coaster, I think. So this being close to me, I'm excited to try this one out for sure.
Another Six Flags coaster that allegedly is going to open in 2021, that was a 2020 coaster, is down in Texas, and it is the first of the mock power splashes at Six Flags Over Texas. What about that, Shane?
So that one's actually taller than Jersey Devil, which is interesting. It's 146 feet tall. That is, like you said, a power splash. So it's essentially 2 vertical spikes. And the car is kind of like a boat, sort of like you see on Journey to Atlantis a little bit, the SeaWorld parks. And it'll basically just go up and down those spikes. It's got an L assemblage to launch it out of the station. Kind of think of, if you've seen those intimate impulses, similar to that, where you launch forwards and backwards up spikes. But the difference here is that there's a water splash pad in the middle, splash track. So when the train, if you can even call it that, comes down the spike, it makes a huge splash when it goes inside that pad. So if you look up, there's some of these internationally. So if you look up some videos, you can see what we're talking about with this Mac Power Splash. But I'm really excited to see this come to the United States.
Yeah, and we have there's a couple articles on the website that explain how that water splash works, because the pool's actually empty for the first couple times the car goes back and forth across the track, and then for the last time it fills up the pool really quickly.
Yeah, if you just go to the site and use the search box and just search Aquaman, that's the first one that'll pop up. So Nick did a great job with that. It's a really, really interesting read.
And if you don't want to use the search bar on the website, you can text Aquaman to 419-742-2101. And thank you to our good friends at Ulimi for our text code. But speaking of roller coasters with multiple launch sections and traversing the same amount of track twice, one of my kind of home away from home parks is Busch Gardens Williamsburg in Virginia. And back in January, again, feels like 100 years ago at this point, I got to take a construction tour of Pantheon. Pantheon is an Intamin multi-launch coaster that is being built at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. And it's got a really, really unique kind of switch track element that can change directions in a couple of times. It's got this vertical spike. It's got a beyond vertical drop on a top hat. It's got two of these crazy like banana roll inversions, and then there's a 0G roll. As someone who loves Busch Gardens Williamsburg, seeing this coaster constructed at this point 12 months ago, and still haven't seen a train on the track. I cannot wait to ride Pantheon. It's going to be a blast. And, the theming of the Roman gods, it fits in very well within the area of the park where it is, just outside of Festa Italia. So I think it is going to be a winner for Busch Gardens Williamsburg for sure. But I actually want to talk about a whole park, not just one roller coaster, but Legoland New York, up outside of New York City in Goshen, New York. It was supposed to open July 4th, 2020. Obviously, COVID pushed that back. And it's not every day that we get a brand new park opening in the United States, especially an outdoor park. I feel like the last big outdoor park to open in the States might have been Hard Rock Park in 2008 or 2009. Having been to Legoland, Florida at the end of 2019, I really, really like Legoland and the level of detail and theming they put into their parks. They've got two roller coaster credits. They've got the Dragon's Apprentice and I believe it's just the Dragon. The Dragon's Apprentice is a kiddie coaster. Dragon is more of a family style coaster, but that's what Lego does. What I'm more excited about is this trackless dark ride, which is called the Lego Factory Adventure. And it's vehicles that are by ETF, and Holovis actually has this bit of technology, and we've got some videos that we've posted on our YouTube channel of the trains in action, but also kind of a digital rendering of the Lego Factory Adventure. Holovis has this technology that can actually transform the rider into a 3D Lego figure, like on the screen. So if you're wearing a blue shirt, your Lego figure in the screen will wear a blue shirt. If you've got glasses, your Lego figure will have glasses. It's an amazing piece of tech, and experiencing that in 2019 down at IAPA, if they can do it at the level where it's being promised, that's going to be a complete game changer for parks and rides in general. I think it's just I hate, just like every other coaster that we've talked about so far, I hate that 2020 happened and we didn't get Iron Gwazi, and we didn't get Icebreaker or Jersey Devil or Pantheon or anything at Legoland New York. But hopefully the absence makes the heart grow fonder, and it will absolutely be worth the wait. That being said, 2020 did provide its fair share of announcements for coasters that would open this coming year. And obviously the big one here is it's the coaster that could rival Iron Gwazi, should rival Iron Gwazi, will rival Iron Gwazi for 2021 Roller Coaster of the Year, and that's the Velocicoaster at Universal Islands of Adventure. And Shane and John, I know you guys have been tracking this pretty heavily. Shane, I know you're a big Jurassic Park, Jurassic World guy. What do you guys think about Velocicoaster, and why is it going to be so good?
Yeah, so I have probably followed this coaster's construction closer than I have any other in recent years, for a few reasons. One, I'm a huge Jurassic Park fan. I mean, I grew up with that franchise, the Jurassic Park franchise, had dinosaur toys all growing up. I mean, I'm all about it. But then also, I've always been really fascinated by parks, landlocked, space-constrained parks like Islands of Adventure, that are able to build coasters in such small spaces. And so if you looked at this before, when I first heard a few years ago that there was a rumored Intamin launch coaster being built in this plot of land, is relatively small. And so to see this whole complex, this Raptor complex, so to speak, come together, and this massive coaster be built in such a relatively small footprint, has really been interesting to watch. I think the ride itself is going to be amazing on its own, but I think how it's going to interact with the with guests, with onlookers, the landscaping, theming. I mean, just it looks like a all around a really, really spectacle, both for riders and onlookers. Shane, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I could not be more excited. I've been following this thing for a long time as well, and I think it's really going to change the game for coasters in these resort parks. Because if you look at what the park has been posting on their social media, you can see some of this theming coming together. There's a big raptor paddock on the outside where in their announcement video it seemed like there may be some animatronics or some screens like interacting at a few points during the ride, sort of like the Hagrid's coaster will do. And also the trains
The
on
trains
this
look
ride,
amazing.
they look so good. They've got those sleek headlights, kind of like the new Incredible Hulk coaster has. And the seats and everything, it's like that neon blue almost. They've got the InGen logo on there, which is really great if you're a Jurassic World fan. I think the level of theming on this is going to be exceptional. So beyond just being a great coaster, I think the theming is going to take it to the next level.
That's awesome. Another coaster that's also pretty highly themed this year is Stunt Pilot at Silverwood in Idaho. It's kind of a home game for RMC. Obviously, it's a clone of the Wonder Woman and Railblazer, kind of those smaller single rail RMC Raptor tracks. Very cool that it's going to a small park like Silverwood. I will say the fact that these things keep getting built in places that are not really accessible for me is really starting to annoy me. Obviously, I know we were supposed to go to Texas last year, and we still might this year, vaccine willing. They need to start building these single rail coasters on the East Coast, and I know we're getting Jersey Devil. That's still a 8 or 9 hour car ride for me, or a plane flight. If I could get one in closer driving distance, that would be great. And then another project that RMC actually has a hand in, but it's an S&S design, is the Dragon Slayer at Adventureland in Iowa. It's a different track layout than a lot of the S&S free spins we've seen at the Six Flags parks. Most of them go by the name Joker, but there is a Batman or two out there as well. I think this will be a good addition for a small park like Adventureland. I mean, it's a park like that doesn't necessarily need a high capacity running people through all the time. I mean, but when you look at Monster and you look at Dragon Slayer, I mean, this replaced an old looping coaster they had that I guess was past its prime, and so it's a nice tie-in to what it's replacing. Obviously the old coaster was the Dragon, and this is the Dragon Slayer, and so it is it's a good addition for sure.
I think they also had another spinning coaster a couple of years ago. So I think this is their third new roller coaster in the last 6 years.
Wow,
that's really good for them.
For sure. And then a couple others just to touch on real quick. Late last month, Dino's Wonder Wheel, which is where Coney Island is. The Coney Island Cyclone is right there. They announced a roller coaster to celebrate their 100th anniversary. Phoenix, not a whole lot of details came out about this. It's a family inverted coaster. It's got this really, really sleek bank turn that appears to fly over the park's entrance. That'll be really cool. I think it was said that it was the furthest you could go without actually going upside down, which I think would be really cool. And having not actually visited Dino's Wonder Wheel, hopefully I can get up to New York at some point this year and just kind of do a New York tour of coasters, get the Coney Island Cyclone, get Phoenix, and get the coasters over there at American Dream as well.
Well, that coaster's by Vekoma, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I didn't see a manufacturer. So
I think it's one of those Vekoma suspended family coasters. So yeah, because last in the fall I just rode a Dragonflyer at Dollywood, which is also a Vekoma suspended family coaster. And I know a lot of people are saying like, oh, there should be more of these because they're very smooth and they're fun and they're good family rides. So now finally we're getting a new one.
And speaking of roller coasters that the world thinks we need more of, our good friends at Indiana Beach are adding a new, I use new in loose air quotes here, new roller coaster from a park in Mexico. It's a triple loop Schwarzkopf. Don't believe they've given it a name yet. Right now it's just listed on RCDB as triple loop because that's what it is. But these coasters are known for their forces, and it was removed from that park in Mexico, and I'm really glad that the United States is getting another Schwarzkopf. What do you guys think?
I agree. I'm really excited. Kind of like you said with some of these other parks, this is not a place that's really accessible to me or to really anybody from what I heard. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere, but I'm excited to see a new Schwarzkopf, especially one of these kind of weirder designs that you don't really see as much as some of their other, more classic stuff. Interested to see what the public kind of thinks of it and how it's received.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see like how much refurbishment they put into the coaster. Like, are they going to get new trains or just redo the existing train somehow, or how much work they have to put into it?
Where are they going to put it?
Yeah,
I think by Steel Hog over in that area.
Yeah, that's what I was
thinking. Really
that's
nowhere like in the main part of the park.
Right.
We'll definitely see as the year progresses what Indiana Beach is going to do with that coaster. Like I said, I'm excited. We will see what happens. If you're listening to this podcast, don't Google the history of that coaster.
Excited, also a little terrified.
Yes, or do, and be aware of what you're walking into.
Yes. But that'll do it for this week's episode of the Coaster101 podcast. If you want to read more about our most anticipated 21 coasters, both in the United States as well as internationally, you can text 21 coasters, so 21 coasters to 419-742-2101. As always, we're on social media, wherever you can consume social media, and maybe there will be some new platforms in the year 2021, but we're at Coaster101. Be sure you're subscribed and you're liking and rating and reviewing this podcast, and you're telling all your friends of how great this is and how much you enjoy listening to John, Shane, and Nick and I talk. If you've got any questions, comments, concerns, hate mail, fan mail, whatever, send us an email, podcast@coaster101.com. Quick shout out to JM Music Design for our theme music, and we will talk to you all next week.